The wind caught me off guard. I was on the veranda barefoot, nursing a tepid mug of coffee. The Georgia sun had barely pierced the overcast sky. The gust swept by like a persistent suitor, lifting the edge of my cotton dress, high enough to expose what I'd chosen not to wear underneath. That was the precise instant Daniel stepped onto the porch. My daughter's husband. We both halted. My pulse faltered. His gaze stayed fixed. He took in everything and uttered not a word, but his quiet rang louder than speech. It wasn't shame or surprise in his expression. It was something ancient, weightier, shadowed. That single second tasted like disloyalty, or perhaps the beginning of one. I hadn't settled on which, and what followed, I never anticipated it. Before I go further, I just want to pause and thank every one of you who subscribed to this channel. To the new and returning viewers who haven't yet tapped that button, thank you for watching. Your support, your likes, and especially your comments keep this channel thriving. Please stay with me until the end of the story, and don't forget to share your thoughts. Now, back to that moment on the veranda. My name is Evelyn. I'm 60 years old. I live alone in a modest blue cottage just beyond Charleston. The rooms are hushed now, framed with photographs of a life already spent. I was married once, 34 years. He departed 2 years ago for someone younger, a yoga teacher with a flawless grin and vacant stare. I didn't weep when he left. I had wept enough while he was still home. Daniel is 35, married to my daughter Sarah for nearly a decade. They met in college. Sarah always said he was the first man who truly noticed her. But lately, it seems he's been trying not to notice her at all. The flame between them has dimmed. She told me once that he'd grown remote, preoccupied, and now here he was on my veranda, having glimpsed far too much of me and still standing there. "Morning, Evelyn," he said, striving for calm, but his voice wavered. That waver hung between us. I drew my cardigan closer around me, pulse racing, cheeks flaming. "You're early," I said, though I had no clue why he was even there. He smiled, but it wasn't courteous. It was tentative, intrigued, like he'd stumbled onto a chapter he was never meant to read. "Thought I'd drop by. Sarah said you needed someone to inspect the downspouts." That was a fabrication. I'd said nothing about down. Sarah hadn't mentioned him coming either. I should have sent him away. I should have stepped inside and closed the door, but instead I moved aside. "Come in," I said. He passed me close enough that I sensed his heat. He didn't glance back, but his quiet did. That night, I gazed into the mirror, not to critique lines or tally years, but to pose one frightening question. What did he see, and why did I want him to see it? I wish I could claim that was the end, that it was just a moment snatched by a puff of air, but Daniel returned. The next afternoon, his pickup eased into my driveway. I hadn't asked him. Sarah hadn't said anything, but there he was, relaxed as ever, worn jeans, navy t-shirt hugging his torso, wearing his assurance like aftershave. This time I was ready. A modest blouse slipped beneath, sandals sturdy and secure, nothing billowing. I greeted him courteously, dodging his eyes because I knew what those eyes had already witnessed. Still concerned about the downspouts, I asked lightly. He laughed, scratching his jaw. "Actually figured I'd look at your bathroom faucet. Sarah said it was leaking." Another falsehood. My faucet functioned perfectly, but I opened the door again. I let him in again, and this time he lingered. He drew out a chair at the dining table while I occupied myself straightening items that didn't need straightening. I could sense his stare on me. Not ravenous, not precisely, deeper, inquisitive, torn. "You holding up?" "Okay," he asked after a lengthy silence. The question carried more than it ought. I paused. "I'm fine." "Why?" He circled the edge of his coffee cup with his thumb. "You seem more subdued lately." I sat across from him, clasping my hands. "That's because I am more subdued lately." He smiled. Not entertained, but almost empathetic. "I understand that sometimes I pace around the house with Sarah and feel like a visitor, like we're just performing parts we've forgotten how to enact." I shouldn't have leaned forward, but I did. "Marriage isn't always a sanctuary," I said. "Sometimes it's a long corridor with too many bolted doors." That phrase, that was where it began. We conversed for nearly 2 hours. Not about the faucet, not about the down. About remorse, isolation, losing the self you once cherished. He confessed he missed being noticed. That Sarah sometimes regarded him like wallpaper. And I shared the truth I'd never voiced aloud. I don't miss my husband. I miss who I used to be when I was cherished. Silence ensued. Not mournful, not uneasy, just complete. Then his hand grazed mine as he reached for the creamer. We both froze, fingertips connecting. I should have withdrawn, but I didn't. When my husband left, he took nothing but the sensation of being noticed. He'd stopped caressing me long before he walked out. No arguments, no theatrics, just quiet, passion fading bit by bit. So yes, I was receptive, exposed, and Daniel saw that. He kept returning, not because the faucet dripped, but because here he felt something absent from his own home. That evening, as he stood at the door, he hesitated. I tell you things I don't even tell Sarah, he murmured. Is that wrong? I met his eyes firm but uncertain. Maybe, but it feels truthful, he nodded. That's why I keep coming back here. He left before I could respond, but I stood at the door long after knowing next time I wouldn't inquire why. The third time was altered. No pretexts about downspouts or faucets. It was a Saturday. Sarah had taken the kids to her and Daniel was supposed to be playing tennis. Instead, his pickup appeared in my driveway like he already knew his decision. He didn't knock. He just stood there, eyes direct this time. No bewilderment. I opened the door, stepped aside. He entered like he belonged. We didn't speak immediately. He sat on the sofa, surveying the sitting room like it had become his haven. Familiar, improper, and inviting all at once. No breeze, no risen hem, just the gravity of everything unspoken. We observed sunlight elongate across the rug. The silence wasn't begging for words. It required a decision. Finally, he turned. I think about you, he said gently. More than I should. I sat down beside him, hands quivering. Do you think about Sarah when you're here? His jaw clenched. I tried to. That reply wounded deeper than a no. We sat shoulder to shoulder, scarcely touching, current buzzing between us. I closed my eyes, not to flee, but to sense my mind, my form, the perilous beat of my heart. Then came the moment I'll never forget. He extended his hand, hovering in the space between us, waiting. I didn't grasp it, but I wanted to, and that was sufficient. He leaned nearer, not to kiss, not to breach the boundary, but to check if I would. I didn't advance. I didn't retreat.